At my son's wedding, I noticed something small. So small, I almost convinced myself it didn't matter. My name wasn't on any table. Not next to his. Not near the family. Not even in the back. Just gone. I stood there for a moment, holding my clutch a little tighter than usual. The music was soft, something classical, floating through the warm California evening. White roses everywhere. Gold ribbons. Crystal glasses catching the sunset. It was beautiful. I had paid for most of it. I'm glad you're here, I said quietly. To you, not to them. Stay with me until the end. And tell me where you're watching from. I'd like to know I'm not the only one who sees things like this. I smiled as I walked further into the venue. No one noticed. Or maybe they did. They just chose not to. I've always believed weddings were sacred. Not just for the couple, but for the family that built them. The years behind that moment. The quiet sacrifices no one claps for. I remembered when my son, Daniel, was 5 years old, running barefoot through our backyard in Austin. He used to pick dandelions and hand them to me like they were diamonds. Mom, this one's special, he'd say. And I would always act like it was. Because to me it was. I raised him mostly on my own after his father passed. 2 jobs. Early mornings. Late nights. I didn't complain. I didn't keep score. I just showed up. Every time. When he got into college, I cried in the parking lot after dropping him off. Not because I was sad, but because I thought I had done something right. That he would build something better. Something kinder. When he told me about her, Lily, I tried to be open. She's different, Mom, he said once over dinner. Different. That word can mean many things. The first time I met her, she hugged me a little too lightly. Like she didn't want to wrinkle her dress. Her smile was perfect. Practiced. Daniel has told me so much about you, she said. But her eyes didn't match her voice. I ignored it. Because that's what mothers do. We ignore the small things. We smooth the edges. We tell ourselves we're imagining it. There were signs. Of course there were. But they never come all at once. They come quietly. Like the time she corrected me in front of the waiter. Oh, I think you mean the other entree, she said, smiling. As if I were confused. As if I needed help ordering my own meal. Or when she started planning the wedding. At first, she included me. Group texts. Pinterest boards. Venue options. Then fewer messages. Then none. When I asked Daniel about it, he just shrugged. She's handling most of it, Mom. It's easier that way. Easier. I nodded. Of course it was easier. Easier to leave me out. A week before the wedding, I asked about seating. Where will I be sitting? I said casually over the phone. There was a pause. Not long. But long enough. Oh, don't worry about that. Lily's voice came through in the background. We've got it all arranged. Arranged. I should have asked more. I didn't. Because somewhere deep down, I still believed there was a place for me. Back at the venue, I watched as guests found their tables. Laughter. Glasses clinking. Names printed neatly on cream-colored cards. I walked past each one slowly. Table 3. Table 5. Table 8. Friends. Colleagues. Distant cousins. Even people I didn't recognize. All of them had a seat. I kept walking. A young server approached me. Ma'am, can I help you find your table? I smiled politely. I'm just looking. He nodded and walked away. I didn't want help. Because I already knew. And then I saw her. Lily. Standing near the head table, adjusting something on the centerpiece. Her dress shimmered under the lights. People circled around her, laughing, praising, admiring. She looked perfect, untouchable. She glanced at me, just for a second. And in that second, her smile changed. Not much, just enough. She walked toward me slowly, heels clicking against the polished floor. Mrs. Carter, she said. Not Mom. Never Mom. I was wondering when you'd arrive. I nodded. Traffic. A small lie. She tilted her head, studying me. And then she leaned in slightly. Close enough that no one else could hear. Her voice was soft. Pleasant. Almost kind. The best gift you could give us today, she said, would be to disappear from our family, forever. For a moment, everything around me went quiet. The music, the voices, the laughter, all of it faded. I looked at her. Really looked at her. At the calm in her eyes. At the certainty. This wasn't anger. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. Carefully. Deliberately. I didn't respond. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask Daniel to come over. I simply smiled. The same way I had smiled when I walked in. The same way I had smiled through every small insult before this. Of course, I said gently. She blinked. Just once. Maybe she expected more. Tears. A scene. A reaction. I gave her none. I turned away from her and walked toward the edge of the room. Slowly. Calmly. As if nothing had happened. As if I had just been welcomed instead of erased. But inside, something had shifted. Not broken. Not shattered. Just settled. Like a final piece of a puzzle clicking into place. Every moment. Every silence. Every small thing I had ignored. It all made sense now. I reached into my purse and touched the envelope I had brought with me. I hadn't planned to use it tonight. But plans change. Especially when someone finally tells you exactly where you stand. I looked back once. At my son. Laughing. Oblivious. Or pretending to be. I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't disappear. Not yet. But for the first time, I stopped wondering if I should stay. And that made all the difference. I didn't go back to her. I didn't look for a seat anymore. Instead, I walked past the tables, past the laughter, past the version of family I thought I still belonged to. Outside, the evening air was cooler, quieter, real. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence settle around me. Inside, they were celebrating a beginning. Out here, I was finally seeing the end. I thought about leaving, just getting into my car and driving home. No scene, no explanation, just disappearing. Isn't that what she wanted? But something in me resisted. Not loudly, not emotionally, just a quiet voice I hadn't listened to in years. No, not like this. I reached into my purse again and pulled out the envelope. It was simple, cream-colored, my handwriting in the corner. I had brought it as a gift, a contribution, one last gesture as a mother. Inside it was a document. Not dramatic, not emotional, just official. Numbers, signatures, decisions. The kind that don't raise voices, but change everything. A few months ago, I had started noticing things. Small withdrawals from the joint account Daniel and I once shared for family expenses. At first, I assumed it was wedding costs. Flowers, catering, deposits. But the numbers didn't match what I had been told. So I asked. Just some adjustments, Daniel said quickly. Lily's handling most of it. That word again. Handling. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I just paid attention. Quietly. Carefully. The way you do when something doesn't feel right, but you're not ready to say it out loud. I met with my bank. Reviewed the accounts. Every transfer. Every signature. And that's when I saw it. Not one large amount. Many small ones. Moved gradually. Intentionally. Into an account that didn't have my name on it. I remember sitting there, across from the bank manager, as he slid the papers toward me. Do you recognize this authorization? He asked. I looked at the signature. It looked like mine. At first glance. But it wasn't. Not really. It was practiced. Close enough to pass. Not close enough to be real. I didn't cry. I didn't call Daniel. I didn't confront anyone. I simply nodded and asked for copies. All of them. Then I went home, made tea, and sat at my kitchen table for a long time. Just looking at the papers. Piece by piece. Everything started to align. The distance. The exclusion. The sudden urgency to handle things without me. Back at the wedding, I held that same envelope in my hands. Only now, it wasn't a gift anymore. It was clarity. Through the glass doors, I could see the reception in full swing. Speeches had started. Someone was laughing too loudly. I spotted Daniel near the front, holding a glass, smiling for the room. He looked happy. Or maybe he looked practiced. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. I stepped back inside. No one stopped me. No one asked where I had been. I moved along the edge of the room, unnoticed, until I reached the table near the gift display. Stacks of boxes. Wrapped envelopes. Ribbons. I placed mine gently among them. Blending in. Just another gift. At least, that's what it looked like. As I turned to leave, I felt it again. That shift. Not pain. Not anger. Something steadier. I had spent years giving without question. Trusting without proof. Staying without boundaries. But tonight, she had made one thing very clear. I wasn't part of their family. And for the first time, I was ready to act like it. I didn't stay for the speeches. I didn't wait for the cake. I didn't need to see how the night ended. Because for me it already had. The drive home was quiet. No music. No calls. Just the soft hum of the road beneath my tires and the occasional street light passing overhead. I kept both hands on the wheel. Steady. Calm. The way I used to drive when Daniel was a baby in the back seat. Late nights. Empty roads. Just the two of us and a future I believed I could protect. Funny how things change. When I got home, I didn't turn on the lights right away. I walked into the kitchen, placed my keys on the counter, and sat down in the same chair I had sat in days before, looking at those documents. Only this time, I didn't need to read them again. I already knew what they said. I already knew what I had to do. The next morning, I woke up early. 6:10 a.m. out of habit. I made coffee. Toast. The same simple breakfast I'd made for years. Routine has a way of grounding you when everything else shifts. I didn't rush. I didn't hesitate. At 8:30, I was sitting in my lawyer's office. His name was Mr. Klein. Calm voice. Precise words. The kind of man who didn't fill silence unless it mattered. He looked over the documents I had brought. Every page. Every signature. Every small detail I had almost ignored. This wasn't accidental, he said finally. I nodded. I know. He tapped one of the pages lightly. This signature, it's close. But it won't hold under review. I'm not interested in a scene, I said. I understand. And I'm not interested in revenge. He looked at me for a moment. Then what are you interested in? I thought about that. Not long. Just long enough to be honest. Clarity, I said. We spent the next hour going through options. Not emotional ones. Legal ones. Practical ones. The kind that don't raise voices, but redraw lines. We froze the remaining accounts. Flagged the unauthorized transfers. Started the process of formally separating anything that still had my name attached to it. Clean. Quiet. Final. Before I left, Mr. Klein handed me a folder. Copies. Statements. Notices. Once this is filed, he said, they'll be notified. They. Not Daniel. Not Lily. They. I appreciated that. It made things simpler. Back in my car, I sat for a moment before starting the engine. I didn't feel lighter. I didn't feel heavier. I just felt done. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. Daniel. I watched it for a second. Then I answered. Mom. His voice was tight. Controlled. Yes. There's an issue with the account. I didn't respond right away. I see that, he continued. Do you know anything about it? I looked out the window. The same tree in the front yard. The same quiet street. Everything looked exactly the same. That depends, I said calmly. What exactly seems to be the problem? There was a pause. Longer this time. They're saying some of the transfers are being reviewed. Yes, I said. They are. Another silence. Then, Mom, did you do this? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain everything. I didn't need to. I corrected it, I said. He exhaled sharply. This is bad timing. We just got back from the wedding trip, and the wedding trip. Of course. I closed my eyes for a brief moment. Not in pain. Just acknowledgement. I'm sure you did, I said. Mom, we need to fix this. We. That word again. I opened my eyes. No, I said quietly. You need to understand it. He didn't answer right away. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't rush to fill the silence. He didn't understand. Not yet. I could hear it in his breathing. In the way he paused, like he was trying to rearrange the situation into something that still made sense for him. Mom, he said finally, softer this time. This is serious. Yes, I replied. It is. Another silence. Then he lowered his voice. Lily's really stressed right now. We just got back, and now this. I didn't let him finish. Daniel. It wasn't loud, but it stopped him. For a moment, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. Stillness. Do you remember? I said slowly. When you were 10, and you broke the neighbor's window? He hesitated. What? You came home. You didn't say anything at first. You just sat at the table. I could see it clearly. The small hands. The guilty eyes. I asked you what happened, and you told me the truth. That's not the same. No, I said gently. It's exactly the same. He exhaled again, sharper now. Mom, I didn't forge anything. I didn't react. I didn't say you did. Then why are you doing this? I let the question sit between us, not avoiding it, letting it exist. Because my name is on those accounts, I said, and those signatures are not mine. That doesn't mean it means enough. His tone shifted, less defensive, more careful. Lily handles most of the finances, he said. You know that? Yes, I replied. I do. And she wouldn't, he stopped. Didn't finish the sentence. I didn't help him. I didn't fill in the blank. I just waited. Mom, he said again, quieter now, can we meet? Talk about this in person? I looked down at the table in front of me. The same table where I had helped him with homework. Signed his school forms. Packed his lunches. All the small things that build a life. We can, I said. Relief came too quickly on his end. Good. Okay. When? I paused. Not to think. To decide. Tomorrow, I said. 10 a.m. Here. No, another silence. Then, carefully, where? At the bank. That one landed. I could feel it. Through the phone. Through the quiet that followed. Mom, I don't think that's necessary. I do. This can be handled privately. It already has been. He didn't respond. Not right away. And in that silence, something shifted again. Not in me. In him. Okay, he said finally. Just that. No argument. No reassurance. Just acceptance. After we hung up, I didn't move for a while. The house was quiet. Still. But it didn't feel empty. Not anymore. For years, I thought strength meant holding things together. Smoothing over tension. Ignoring discomfort. Keeping peace at any cost. But peace, built on silence, isn't peace. It's permission. I stood up and walked to the window. The afternoon light stretched across the yard. Everything looked the same. But it wasn't. Tomorrow, there would be no raised voices. No accusations. No scenes. Just facts. Documents. Truth. And this time, I wouldn't be the one adjusting to it. The bank was quiet at 9:55 a.m., too quiet for a place where lives quietly change. I arrived early. Of course I did. I've always believed if something matters, you show up before it begins. I sat in the waiting area, hands folded neatly in my lap. No phone. No distractions. Just the soft ticking of a wall clock and the low murmur of conversations behind closed doors. At exactly 10:02, I saw them walk in. Daniel first. Lily just behind him. She looked different. Not weaker. Not shaken. Just more alert. Like someone who had realized the ground beneath her might not be as stable as she thought. Her eyes found mine immediately. No smile this time. Mom, Daniel said, approaching. I nodded. Daniel. He hesitated, then gestured toward Lily. You remember? Yes, I said calmly. I remember. Lily stepped forward slightly. Good morning, she said, voice even. Polished. Controlled. We didn't shake hands. We didn't pretend. Mr. Klein appeared moments later. Mrs. Carter, he greeted me with a small nod. Then his eyes moved to them. You must be Daniel, and Lily. He didn't rush. Didn't fill the air. Just opened the door to the meeting room and let us walk in. We sat across from each other. A rectangular table. Clean. Neutral. No space to hide. Mr. Klein placed a folder in the center. The same one I had reviewed the day before. Thank you all for coming, he said. I'll keep this straightforward. That was something I appreciated. He opened the folder. Turned the first page toward them. These are the account records in question, he began. Over the past several months, there have been multiple transfers authorized under Mrs. Carter's name. Daniel leaned forward. Lily didn't move. And this, Mr. Klein continued, sliding another page forward, is a comparison of signatures. I watched Daniel's eyes scan the paper. Confusion first. Then tension. Mom, he started. But Lily spoke first. That doesn't prove anything, she said calmly. Signatures can vary. Mr. Klein nodded slightly. They can. Which is why we had them reviewed. He placed one more document on the table. By an independent examiner. Silence. He didn't need to say more. Daniel looked at Lily. Not quickly. Not dramatically. Just slowly. As if something inside him was catching up. Lily, he said. Her posture didn't change. Her expression didn't break. But something behind her eyes shifted. Barely. I handled the finances, she said. You knew that. I know, he replied. But this was temporary, she cut in. We were managing things. For the wedding. For us. For us. I didn't interrupt. I didn't correct her. I just listened. The way I always had. But this time, I wasn't absorbing it. I was observing it. Mr. Klein closed the folder gently. At this point, he said, the accounts associated with Mrs. Carter have been secured. Any further action will depend on how this is resolved. Resolved. Such a simple word. Daniel leaned back in his chair. His face had changed. Not angry. Not yet. Just unsettled. Why didn't you tell me? He asked Lily quietly. She looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time, she didn't have an immediate answer. I stood up. Not abruptly. Not dramatically. Just finished. This isn't about a mistake, I said calmly. And it isn't about timing. They both looked at me now. It's about trust, I continued. And what's left of it? No one argued. No one raised their voice. I picked up my purse. I think you both have everything you need, I said. And then I walked out. No one stopped me. Not this time either. But this time, it meant something very different. I didn't rush to my car. I walked. Slowly. Past the glass doors. Past the polished floors. Past the quiet conversations that had nothing to do with me. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't carrying anything that belonged to them. Outside, the sun was brighter than I expected. It felt indifferent. The world hadn't changed. Just my place in it. I reached my car and sat inside without starting the engine. My hands rested on the steering wheel. Still. Not shaking. Not tense. Just still. For years, I thought closure would feel like something dramatic. A final conversation. Tears. Apologies. But it didn't. It felt like this. Quiet. Clear. Uncomplicated. My phone rang. I didn't need to look. I already knew. Daniel. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I answered. Yes. Mom. His voice sounded different now. Not controlled. Not careful. Just uncertain. Can you wait? He asked. Just a few minutes. I want to talk. I looked ahead through the windshield. People walking by. Cars passing. Life continuing. I've already talked, I said. No, he replied quickly. Not like this. I didn't answer right away. Not to create tension. Just to decide. I'll give you 5 minutes, I said. I stepped out of the car and leaned lightly against the door. The air carried a faint smell of coffee. From somewhere nearby, I watched the entrance. And then they came out. Daniel walked faster. Lily followed. Not beside him. Behind. He stopped a few steps in front of me. For a moment, he didn't speak. He just looked at me. Like he was trying to find something familiar. Something steady. Is it true? He asked. I didn't ask what he meant. Yes, I said. He ran a hand through his hair. This, all of this, the accounts, the signatures, yes. Another pause. Then, quieter. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I met his eyes. I was waiting, I said. For what? For you to notice. That landed. I could see it. Not as anger. As something slower. Heavier. I trusted her, he said. I know. Behind him, Lily finally stepped forward. Her voice was still calm. Still measured. You're making this bigger than it is, she said. I looked at her. Not with anger. Not with judgment. Just clearly. No, I replied. I'm seeing it for what it is. Daniel turned slightly toward her. Lily, did you sign her name? She didn't answer. Not immediately. I handled things, she said instead. You were busy. Someone had to. Someone had to. I let the words sit in the air. The same way I had let everything sit for months. Daniel's shoulders dropped slightly. Not defeated, but no longer certain. I didn't take anything for myself, Lily added quickly. It was for us. For the wedding. For our future. I nodded once. I'm sure you believe that. She blinked. That wasn't the response she expected. This isn't about intention, I continued. It's about permission. No one spoke. A car passed behind us. Somewhere, a door closed. Life kept moving. Daniel looked between us. Then back at me. What happens now? He asked. I straightened slightly. Not to appear stronger. Just because I was. Now, I said. You decide what kind of truth you're willing to live with. He didn't respond. Not right away. And for the first time, I didn't wait for him to. Neither of them followed me when I got into my car. I didn't expect them to. Some distances you don't close by walking faster. This time, I started the engine right away. No hesitation. No second thoughts. Just movement. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I glanced once in the rearview mirror. Daniel was still. Standing there. In the same spot. Lily beside him now. Closer than before. Talking. Or maybe explaining. I turned my eyes back to the road. Forward. By the time I got home, the house felt different. Not empty. Just quieter in a way that didn't ask anything from me. I set my purse down. Took off my shoes. Walked into the kitchen. Same space. Same table. But something had changed. For the first time in years. I wasn't waiting for a call. Or a visit. Or an apology that might never come. I made tea. Sat down. And let the silence stay. Not filling it. Not avoiding it. Just letting it exist. An hour passed. Then 2. No calls. No messages. That told me more than anything they could have said. Around mid-afternoon, my phone finally lit up. A message. Not from Daniel. From Lily. I think we got off on the wrong foot today. I read it once. Then again. Slowly. Carefully. Not an apology. Not a denial. Just a repositioning. I set the phone down without replying. A few minutes later, another message. We should talk. Privately. Without lawyers. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, Because it was familiar. For years, privately meant quietly. And quietly meant without record. Without clarity. Without consequence. I picked up the phone. Typed a response. Then stopped. Deleted it. Some conversations don't need more words. They need boundaries. I stood up, walked to the hallway, and opened the small drawer near the door. Inside were old documents. Insurance papers. Copies of things I hadn't looked at in years. I added one more folder. The one from this morning. Placed it neatly on top. Not hidden. Not buried. Just kept. My phone buzzed again. A call this time. Daniel. I looked at the screen. Let it ring. Watched his name appear and disappear. Then the silence returned. And this time, it didn't feel like something was missing. It felt like something had finally been put back in its place. The next morning, I didn't check my phone right away. I made coffee first. Stood by the window. Watched the light settle across the yard like it always did. Routine has a way of reminding you who you were before everything shifted. When I finally picked up my phone, there were 3 missed calls. All from Daniel. No messages. That told me something. He didn't know what to say. I placed the phone back down and finished my coffee slowly. No urgency. No pull. Just space. Around 9:20, it rang again. This time, I answered. Mom, he said, almost immediately. Can we talk? His voice sounded tired. Not defensive. Not sharp. Just worn down. We already did. I replied calmly. Not really, he said. Not fully. I didn't respond. I let him continue. I spoke to Lily, he said. She explained some things. Explained. Not admitted. And? I asked. There was a pause. Long enough to matter. She said it was temporary, he continued. That she was moving money around for the wedding. That she was going to put everything back. I leaned slightly against the counter. Same spot as yesterday. Same quiet. Did she? I asked. Another pause. Shorter this time. No, I nodded. Even though he couldn't see it. She said she didn't think it would be a big deal, he added. I didn't react. Didn't correct him. Didn't push. Daniel, I said gently, do you think it wasn't a big deal? Silence. That question didn't need pressure. It just needed space. I don't know, he said finally. And for the first time, that sounded honest. I thought I knew her, he continued. I thought I understood how she handled things. Yes, I said. But this, he hesitated, this doesn't feel right. No, it didn't. I walked back to the table and sat down. Not because I needed to. Because I wanted to stay grounded. When someone shows you how they handle things, I said quietly, you don't have to guess anymore. He didn't respond. I'm not asking you to choose, I added. That's not my place. Then what are you asking, he said. I looked down at my hands. Calm. Steady. Nothing, I said. That answer stayed between us. Heavy. Clear. You're just walking away, he asked. I considered that. Not long. Just honestly. No, I said. I'm stepping out of something that was already gone. He exhaled slowly. Like something inside him had shifted, but hadn't settled yet. What happens now? He asked again. I thought about the house. The quiet. The years behind me. Now, I said, you decide what kind of life you want to build. And you? He asked. I looked out the window again. Same light. Same morning. But it didn't feel the same. Anymore. I already did, I said. And this time, I meant it. The house stayed quiet for the rest of the day. Not heavy. Not tense. Just undisturbed. I moved through it slowly. Not because I had to. Because I finally could. There's a difference between being alone and having space. I was starting to understand that. Around noon, I opened the drawer again. The one by the hallway. The one where I had placed the folder. I took it out. Set it on the table. Opened it. Every document was exactly where I left it. Clean. Organized. Clear. For months, things had felt off. Small inconsistencies. Delays. Answers that didn't quite match the questions. But I had ignored them. Not because I didn't see them. Because I didn't want to believe them. Trust does that. It fills in gaps. Even when it shouldn't. Said. You didn't. He looked at me then. Really looked. Not as his mother who would fix things. Not as someone who would smooth it over. Just as someone who had already seen the truth. What do I do now? He asked. I held his gaze. Calm. Steady. That depends, I said, on what you're willing to accept and what you're not. He swallowed slightly. I don't think I can ignore this, he said. No, I replied. You can't. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it wasn't avoidance. It was decision. And for the first time, he was the one who had to make it. Daniel didn't sit down right away. He stayed where he was, standing in the middle of the living room, like the weight of everything hadn't quite settled into place yet. I confronted her, he said. I didn't react. I let him speak. This morning, he added, after I called you. I nodded once. She didn't deny it this time. That part didn't surprise me. What did she say? I asked. He let out a breath. Not sharp, not angry, just tired. She said she was trying to protect us, he replied. That she didn't want to ask for help. That she thought she could manage it without anyone noticing. Manage it. I had heard that before. Different words. Same meaning. And I asked quietly. He looked down for a moment. Then back at me. She said she was going to fix it. Of course she did. Did she explain how? I asked. A small shake of his head. No, silence settled between us again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was clarifying. I asked her why she used your name, he continued. Why she didn't come to me. I waited. She said, he hesitated. She said you wouldn't notice. That landed exactly the way truth usually does. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just precise. I didn't flinch. Didn't defend myself. Didn't react at all. Instead, I asked the only thing that mattered. Do you believe that? He didn't answer right away. I think, he said slowly, she believed it. That was enough. He finally sat down. Across from me. Not as a child. Not as someone looking for comfort. But as someone facing something real. I don't recognize this, he admitted. This version of her. Or maybe I just didn't want to see it before. I folded my hands gently in my lap. People don't become different overnight, I said. They just stop hiding it. He absorbed that. Quietly. I don't know what this means for us, he said. Us. I didn't ask him to clarify. I understood. That's something you'll have to decide, I replied. And you? He asked again. Where do you stand in all this? I looked at him. Steady. Certain. I've already stepped back, I said. From the accounts. From the assumptions. From anything that isn't clear. He nodded slowly. She wants to come here, he said after a moment. To talk. To explain. I let that sit. No, I said. He blinked. Not expecting that. No, he repeated. This isn't a conversation, I said calmly. It's a consequence. Silence again. She said if we keep this internal, we can fix it quietly, he added. I almost smiled. Not because it was amusing. Because it was predictable. Quietly, I repeated. He didn't respond. For a long time, I said. Quietly meant I accepted things I shouldn't have. I met his eyes again. That's not happening anymore. He leaned back slightly. Processing. Adjusting. I think, he started then stopped. I didn't push him. I think I need to take some space, he said finally. I nodded. That would be wise. He stood up slowly. Looked around the room one more time. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't ask what for. I know, I replied. And for the first time, that was enough. After Daniel left, the house returned to silence. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one had clarity in it. I didn't follow him to the door. I didn't stand there watching him leave. Some endings don't need witnesses. I went back to the kitchen, picked up the cup I hadn't finished. The tea was cold now. I didn't reheat it. I drank it as it was. There's something about accepting things without trying to change them. Even the small things. The rest of the afternoon passed quietly. No calls. No messages. Not from Daniel. Not from Lily. That told me something had shifted. Not resolved, but shifted. By early evening, I walked into the living room and sat down in the chair by the window. The same chair I had sat in for years. Waiting. Thinking. Sometimes worrying. But tonight, I wasn't waiting for anything. I looked around the room. At the photos. The memories. The version of life I had held together for so long. And I realized something. I hadn't lost it. It had already changed long before I acknowledged it. My phone buzzed once. A message. Unknown number. I opened it. It was Lily. I know you don't want to see me, but please, let me explain. I read it slowly. Carefully. Still no apology. Still no ownership. Just another attempt to control the conversation. I didn't respond. A second message came. I never meant to hurt you. I looked at the words. Not the intention. The impact. Meaning doesn't undo action. I placed the phone face down on the table. For years, I had been the one who made things easier. Smoothed things over. Accepted explanations that didn't quite hold. But clarity changes that. I stood up and walked to the hallway again. Opened the drawer. Looked at the folder. Everything I needed was already there. Not just the documents. The understanding. I closed the drawer. Gently. That night. I didn't replay conversations in my head. Didn't question what I should have said differently. Didn't wonder how things might turn out. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to fix anything. Some things aren't meant to be repaired. They're meant to be recognized. And once you see them clearly, you don't go back to guessing. I turned off the lights one by one. The house settling into darkness. Not empty. Not broken. Just finally honest. The next morning felt familiar. Not because nothing had changed, but because everything had. I woke up at the same time. Walked into the kitchen. Made coffee the same way I always had. Measured. Steady. Quiet. But there was something different in the way I moved. Not heavier. Not lighter. Just certain. I sat by the window again. The same place where I had spent years watching life unfold around me. Waiting. Hoping. Holding things together. My phone rested on the table. Silent. No messages. No calls. And for the first time, that silence didn't feel like absence. It felt like peace. Around mid-morning, I heard a car pass by slowly. Not stopping. Just moving forward. I didn't look out. I didn't need to. Some things, you don't need to confirm anymore. You already understand them. I stood up and walked to the hallway. Opened the drawer one last time. The folder was still there. Exactly where I had placed it. I took it out. Held it for a moment. Not as evidence. Not as protection. But as something that had done its job. Then I walked back to the table. Sat down. And slowly, I began to remove each paper. The statements. The signatures. The proof. All the things that had once felt heavy. Complicated. Unsettling. Now, they were just paper. I placed them back neatly. Closed the folder. And this time, I didn't put it back in the drawer. I stood up. Walked to the cabinet. And placed it on the top shelf. Not hidden. Not forgotten. Just no longer at the center of my life. Because the truth had already done what it needed to do. I returned to the window. Sat down. Let the light settle across the room. For years, I thought my place in this family was something I had to protect. Hold on to. Fight for, even quietly. But now I understood something different. A place built on silence isn't a place. It's a role. And roles can be taken away. Changed. Rewritten by other people. But a life? A life is something you choose. Daniel would figure things out. Or he wouldn't. Lily would explain. Or she wouldn't. That part no longer belonged to me. What belonged to me was this moment. This quiet. This clarity. I picked up my coffee. Took a slow sip. Still warm. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about what had been said at that wedding. Or what had been taken. Or what had been broken. I was thinking about what remained. And what remained was enough. Not perfect. Not untouched. But honest. I looked out the window one last time. The world moving forward, just as it always had. And this time, so did I.